Hey everyone, it's Dilnaya on the big debate on the BBC Asian Network. Now, fundamentalism, extremism, radicalization, they're words we hear a lot about, especially in the media, but probably not linked to Buddhists. The religion is seen as peaceful, non-violent, but recent violence in Sri Lanka and Myanmar has made some people start to question that. Over the past year, more than 700,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled Buddhist majority Myanmar, and last week in Sri Lanka, Buddhists attacked more than 150 Muslim businesses, shops and homes, with at least 2 people dying in the violence. So what's going on? Is this hardline form of Buddhism a new thing, and should we be worried? With me to discuss it from Sri Lanka is Rucky Fernando, a human rights activist. In the studio with me, I've got Pati. Actually, I was corrected earlier. Jayapati Perera, who's a Sri Lankan Buddhist businessman. And joining me from our Leicester studio is Nasrin Nisamdeen, a Sri Lankan Muslim who organised a protest in Leicester calling for an end to the violence. If I can start with you, Rucky, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Lovely. Rucky, tell me, just give me, for those who may not be aware of what's led up to where we are now and our discussion, what's have happened in your opinion, just very, very briefly?
Sri Lanka ethnically is the majority of the people are Sinhalese, and religious-wise, the majority of the people are Buddhist. So the Sinhalese Buddhist consist of about close to 3/4 of the population in Sri Lanka. And that particular community has been holding the dominance, particularly politically, and that is why we've also seen a war. But more recently, what we have seen is a consistent number of attacks against Christian communities and Muslim communities, particularly since about 2012. This has escalated dramatically. It has continued over the last 3 years.
And
what we saw is the latest.
And last week's violence, and the violence last week in Sri Lanka?
The last week is the latest of a series of such incidences. What happened basically was that there was a Sinhalese man from the majority community who was beaten up very badly, and so he succumbed to his injuries after about a week in hospital. And the perpetrators of that are alleged to be Muslims, and these Muslims have been arrested by the police because it's a crime. But I think radical extremist Sinhalese Buddhist groups capitalized on this situation and attacked Muslim places of worship, Muslim houses, and Muslim shops. And mainstream Buddhists in Sri Lanka did not come out very visibly and in their numbers to stop the violence, which was going on for about 3-4 days.
What about now? What's the mood like now at the moment?
Well, even yesterday, the mood was one of fear, particularly among the Muslim community. It was a sense of betrayal by that many of the Sinhalese Buddhist friends and neighbors, people they have worked with, had betrayed them. A few have been exceptions, a few Sinhalese who had come to their rescue, tried to protect their mosque, invited them to come and stay at their homes to protect them, but they were the exception. So there is a very strong sense of fear, there's a strong sense of betrayal, among the Muslim community about the Sinhalese Buddhist community, but there's also a strong resentment against the government, that the government has not been able to protect them, and the government has not been willing to take firm action against those who are responsible, because much of the violence happened before the eyes of the police, before the eyes of the special task force of the police, and when there was a curfew going on.
I want to bring in Nasrin, who's in our Leicester studio. Nasrin is a Sri Lankan Muslim who organised a protest in Leicester calling for an end to the violence. Hello, Nasrin.
Hi, good morning.
Why in particular did you organise this protest?
The protest was organized by a whole Leicester Sri Lankan community to create an awareness against racism and violence directed at Sri Lankan innocent Muslims. Nearly 300 Sri Lankan community members gathered in Humberstone Gate in Leicester from 11 to 2 p.m. And also we have participating in a peaceful protest in London where nearly 5,000 UK Sri Lankan Muslims gathered. We have raised our voices for innocent Muslims to take an immediate action to stop anti-Muslim Muslim conflicts by Buddhist racist groups. We have done this to make a peaceful situation in Sri Lanka where Sri Lankan Muslims can live with no fear.
We'll sort of unpick some of the points that you've raised and also that Rucky raised as well. But I just want to hear, in terms of, where so that the audience also understands where you're coming from. Your family were raised in Sri Lanka. Have they been affected by it? Have you sort of personally been affected by it in that sense?
Yes, in my hometown, which is Kurunegala, it's a majority of the Sinhalese living, and but I came from a Muslim village called Mallavapitiya, and we all living peacefully hundreds of years with cooperating each other. But in my village also there were a few incidents happen, but we have all over the country, especially in Kandy and Madawal area, many relatives and friends, and whose shops, houses and mosques burned and destroyed while police officers were on duty during the state of emergency, I want to point out.
So you're very worried about your relatives and other people over there.
Yes, exactly. We are worried about this situation because I think the part of the Buddhist population is jealous of Muslims because they are well educated and growing fast in business. They think the Muslims will take over the Buddhist areas like this. I believe it didn't happen because of the incidents on 22nd of February where a few Muslims attacked a Sinhalese truck driver, Kumara Singha. Unfortunately, he passed away. Those criminals, as Mr. I don't remember his name, our brother, Sinhalese brother was mentioned, those criminals are already arrested straight after the incident, and they are still in police custody. During the funerals of Kumara Singha, some people, Sinhalese community and racist group resorted to the violence in some of the Muslim-dominated areas like Kandy, Digana, Teldeni, and Madawala. So I want to point out this is a special thing because just a day before this happened, the Sinhalese nationalist leader Amit Veera Singha, who was distributing his leaflets to Digana town, and he stated, the problem is we haven't come across even 20 shops that are owned by Sinhalese in a measured tone. And he continues saying, this town has come to belong only to Muslims. We should have started to address this a long time ago. And also he blamed Sinhalese and invite them to come to Kandy area to support him. So I think after these announcements, the violence started to grow deeper. The goodness about it, Amit has been arrested by police because of his statesman and crime activities. But there are many racists around the country. We have many racist groups. So we have to take action of all of them.
Okay, so we're chatting this in this hour about Buddhism. I'm asking, is there a dark side to Buddhism? It's what some people right to be calling it or referring to it as Buddhist extremism, and that's following violence in Sri Lanka and Myanmar. With me in the studio, as I said before, is Ganapathi Perera, who's a Sri Lankan Buddhist businessman. What's your reaction to what has been said by Nasrin and Rucky?
Good morning, Rucky. Good morning, Nasrin. I'm Perera.
Do you want to just come a bit closer to the microphone? Yeah.
Good morning, Rucky. Good morning, Nasrin. I'm Perera, Ganapathi Perera. Of course, I have to agree with you on the current situation in Sri Lanka to an extent. This whole situation has been created by few destructive elements within the Sinhalese population, obviously. There's no doubt about that. Let's not argue about it. But this is a minority. Certainly it's a minority. This is not the Buddhist philosophy. It's totally different. We all Buddhists, proper Buddhists, all over the world, not only in Sri Lanka, all over the world, will run away from this kind of Buddhism.
So are you saying that it's wrong to characterize it as Buddhist extremism, which some people are doing, and it's bad people who are
stoking up things. Yeah. Any religion, anywhere in the world, we have got such elements. What has happened in Sri Lanka? They have got together. I don't want to relate this to Myanmar. Myanmar is, I would say, it's almost state-sponsored terrorism, whoever has done it. Here, it's few people who have got together. Now, they have joined others with same kind of mentality and have come into to a situation where they are going and disrupting peaceful existence.
So there's an acceptance there that there is violence, and there's an acceptance that the violence is being targeted at the Muslims there, and there's an acceptance that it's wrong, but it's just how, what you think the motive is for that sort of violence.
Yes, of course, because it's certainly the destructive elements within a minority within the Sinhalese population has instigated these things. There are people, even the clergy, involved with it. And in real terms, we won't even call them Buddhists.
But they would, do you think that would be fair to sort of say, but they would call themselves Buddhists, and they would say that they're protecting their religion, their faith, their traditions, in which case then maybe we should be worried, and maybe we might be wrong not to characterize it as Buddhist extremism.
Yeah, I don't characterize in general terms. You can't call it this is Buddhist extremism,
right?
For the simple reason, it's not the majority of Buddhists who are doing this. This is a minority within the population, and I would like to say these are few rotten apples.
Let's see what Rucky thinks about that. Hi, Rucky.
Hi.
Yeah. Ganapathi agrees that it's not questioning at all that there's violence, and not questioning at all that it's directed at Muslims in those areas that you talked about, but it's just whether he would characterize it in that way. What do you think? As is he wrong to sort of say it's not what some would call Buddhist extremism fueling this?
But what's visible here in Sri Lanka, I was in Digana, in that area, the last 5 days actually, and I met Buddhist monks as well. I met mosque leaders. I visited people whose houses have been burned, shops have been burned, etc. And what is visible is there is no public outrage by the majority of the Sinhalese Buddhists. So what is visible is this what this few groups is doing, and a tolerance of that, and acceptance by that, by the the Buddhists that I think Ganapathi is talking about. Now, Kandy is considered to be, in a way, seat of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, one of the major cities, along with maybe Anuradhapura and Polonnaru. That is where the chief prelates reside for Buddhism. So why haven't they come out? Why haven't they walked the streets and told the rioters who are claiming to be Sinhalese Buddhists, and some in Buddhist monks' robes, not to do that, to stop burning shops, to stop attacking mosques? So why haven't they done it? Why aren't they protesting? Why aren't Sinhalese Buddhists joining others like the Muslims when they're protesting for their safety? So the impression we get here in Sri Lanka is that, except a few exceptional Buddhists, Sinhalese Buddhists, the vast majority are tolerating this. And it's the same with the state. The state, as I mentioned, and I think my other friend also mentioned, much of the violence was perpetrated in front of the police. Much of the violence was perpetrated in curfew hours, when there was no one supposed to be walking around on the streets. So what do we make out of it? The state is complicit in this. The state is reluctant to take action against the perpetrators for years, and not only this incident. If they had taken action against those responsible for the incidences in Alutgama, in southern part of Sri Lanka, where there were riots against the Muslims and several people were killed. And similar way, shops and business enterprises were burned. Maybe this wouldn't have happened. Maybe this would have been prevented.
Rucky, I want to be fair to everybody. You're saying that the police in some of the instances were there and they were the only ones and they didn't act. So that does suggest that there are serious questions to be asked about the police and whether they should have intervened and all of that. But do you think it's fair to sort of say that the Buddhist majority in those areas are complicit? Maybe they're scared as well by this situation and by speaking out.
So maybe they should come forward to protect Buddhism. Because being scared and staying silent is not going to protect Buddhism from the kind of what Ganapathi calls rotten apples. Yeah. So the majority who are supposed to be good apples, who claim to be good apples, should come forward to protect Buddhism from these rotten apple Buddhists. Yeah. And even like if you take the constitution of Sri Lanka, Buddhism is given foremost place. Now, why do Buddhists need the protection of the state? They are the majority in this country. Why do they need the special privilege, special protections from the state that is not afforded to the minorities? If at all, I would argue that it is the numerical minorities who would need special protection from the state.
Ganapathi, let's put that some of those points. I mean, thank you, Ganapathi, for coming here and answering these questions, because they are important questions, aren't they? Why do you think that the majority aren't speaking out? Because if you see something that's there and it's happening and obviously is violent and is being directed at a sort of minority, we should be saying something, shouldn't we?
Certainly. I can't comment on what has happened in Digana during the last 4 or 5 days because I haven't been there. But I can tell you one thing. If you take Colombo, city of Colombo, the majority of them who live there now are Muslims, right? And then if you take other places, we all live in harmony. We have been living. I come from an area. All my neighbors are Muslims. My brother-in-law is a Muslim, actually. And we are so used to living with Muslims. We have lived in harmony for all this time. Of course, there have been some problems from time to time. Always, we have managed to sort out things through dialogue. Yeah. We have never, ever started fighting.
But the way that you're sort of coming out here and publicly saying that it's wrong, this violence is wrong, and I assume you mean you want it to stop.
Of course.
Why aren't more people, more Buddhists over in those places saying the same thing?
Yeah, I don't know whether Rucky knew, last week the National Buddhist Front protested in Colombo. They conducted a protest with the help of the Catholic Church and some Hindus. They protested silently against all these things. So there are people who are actively taking part in protesting. As far as the government is concerned, consists of many fronts. We have got the Sinhalese Buddhists, we have got the Tamils, we have got the Muslims. So wherever it comes, the politicians come into the scene and they're trying to maximize all the opportunities that they have within that structure. So in countries like us, it always happens that the politicians come in and interfere with day-to-day problems, and that doesn't help. But certainly majority Sinhalese Buddhists and also Sinhalese Catholics. We have got Sinhalese Catholics and Sinhalese Anglicans.
I think, sorry to interrupt you, but I think the point that, if I understand it correctly, the point that Rucky's making is, or his criticism is, that the Buddhist majority are turning a blind eye. They're not saying anything, especially if you're saying that, they've lived together for so many years in harmony without any problem. Shouldn't they then become even more responsibility for them to sort of say, no, this is wrong. We should not be having this violence. Please stop this now.
Majority of the Buddhists, Sinhalese Buddhists, or Buddhists, to that matter, have been saying enough is enough. We don't want this kind of disruption because it affects everybody in Sri Lanka, not only the Tamils. It affects the entire population. After 30 years of a war in Sri Lanka, we have just come out of it some time ago, and we have been developing, not at a greater pace, but at a certain pace towards prosperity. And this kind of problems drag us down. We rely on the international community for our foreign investments, and other things. We are talking about a global economy. We need to be part of the global economy. If you are to do that, we should stop this kind of nonsense in our country. And also, everybody should understand that we should sort our problems. We need to forge a one nation identity. And any issues we have got, we should sit down and discuss, not throw stones and burn shops and mosques anywhere, vice versa. And we should have those who found guilty of from any community should be brought into the books and should be dealt in a court of law quickly.
This is the big debate on the BBC Asian Network. My name's Dilnair, and I'm asking this hour: is there a dark side to Buddhism? Should we be worried by what some are calling Buddhist extremism that's following the violence in Sri Lanka and Myanmar? You can take part in a discussion as well. You can call me on 03459 440 445. You can text 81869, tweet at BBC Asian Network, or email thebigdebate@bbc.co.uk. You heard there from Ganapathi Perera, who's a Sri Lankan Buddhist businessman, and we've got from Sri Lanka Rucky Fernando, who's a human rights activist, and also from our Leicester studio Nasrin Nisamdeen, who's a Sri Lankan Muslim who organised a protest in Leicester. Nasrin, do you find what Ganapathi has had to say a positive, something, it's quite positive that somebody like him, a prominent community member, is actually coming out and saying this is wrong, put an end to it now?
I totally agree with him, because we also not condemn the whole Sinhalese community, because we know as a Muslim, I'm coming from a village Malapitia. I remember still we rode bikes to play cricket surrounding Sinhalese places, and we ate Sinhalese food. We have invited them to play cricket in our village several times. They enjoyed our foods. We were participating in their Vesak Poson and Dansal events, and they used to come to our wedding and Eid occasions. It was very beautiful days back then. But now in this situation of the country, some racist group like Bodhbala Sena demotivate Sinhalese in public not to eat from Muslim hotels and not to buy clothes from Muslim shops. I personally never had any problem with Buddhist, and also I'm not saying I'm not against Buddhism, because in the country majority of the Sinhalese are not supporting the ethnic cleansing and racism. It's only approximately less than 5% of the population from various groups such as Sinhalese Nationalist, Sinhala Ravaya, Bodhbala Sena, Mahason Balakaya, Sihala Urmaya, and Singhale, and there are many others. They're doing these hate crimes and anti-Muslim conflicts. At the same time, you will never find a single Muslim group in Sri Lanka that motivating these type of genocides and riots. Our worry is the government is not doing enough to protect or ease the community tensions, because after President Maithripala Sirisena announced the state of emergency, we have received many evidence from the news about Dikana, Madavala and surrounding areas, and at least, as you said, 2 deaths and around 20 people been injured, 120 businesses destroyed and burned. 24 worship places for Muslims have been burned and destroyed. About 60 vehicles and 150 buildings also been burned and destroyed. It's all happening in front of the
frightening numbers that you mentioned there, Nasrin. Unfortunately, we've got to wrap it up there. So, Nasrin, we've got your final comments, if I could put it that way. Rucky, do you want to say something more, and then I'll let Ganapathi have the final say. So, Rucky, what would be your last words on this?
Well, the Sri Lankan state has always had a Sinhalese Buddhist mindset. That was one major reason for the war. And constitutionally, we still have a privileged place, foremost place is the word used, for Buddhism. That has to be removed. Every religion has to have equal place. And the majority of the Buddhist community should come forward to protect Buddhism. I would say I don't call Buddhism dark. I would say maybe the majority of the Buddhists are grey, while a few are dark, but the grey people should at least come forward to protect from the rotten apples, and the state should take firm action to protect minority communities, including Muslims.
Right. Okay, Ganapathi, I want you to sort of respond to that. Do people like you need to be speaking out a lot more? In a far more louder sort of way to get the message across that this is wrong and unacceptable.
Yes, we have been doing that. And first of all, what Rucky said, I agree with Rucky on many points. But to start with, we had a war. We had a war because of a group of terrorists, not because of the government of Sri Lanka. That's a different story. That's all. Now it's all finished. I don't want to drag this into this, but as far as the Sinhalese Buddhists are concerned, or Buddhists are concerned all over the world, I'm sure we will all follow Buddha's teachings, and we want to avoid all evil and cultivate good. That's what the Buddhist philosophy has been saying. So because of that particular reason, I would like to say all Sinhala Buddhists, proper Buddhists, would not support this kind of destructive process. We want to show that all Buddhists come together and help our country get back to its normals.
Okay, positive words there to end on.